Hello and welcome to the Mass Stand for the 41st Annual Midwest Morris Ale, the Perseverance Ale. Have your hankies ready because we will be working in all of the jigs from the May Jig Festival as mass dances. Teams are joining us from across the U.S. and around the world, but first, a word from some of the Perseverance Ale planning team. Hi, Midwest Morris Ale.
It's been quite a year.
I haven't danced with another person in a really long time.
I can't wait to dance with all my friends from the Midwest Morris Ale.
Cheers from my corner of Zoom.
Cheers!
Cheers!
Minnesota Traditional Morris brings us a reminder to get vaccinated so we can all dance together in person.
Why don't you take your shot? You know we think you ought. Why don't you take your shot? You know we think you ought. Why don't you take your shot? You know we think you ought. Herd immunity, Why don't you take your shot? You know we think you ought. Why don't you take your shot? You know we think you ought. Why don't you take your shot? You know we think you ought.
Next up is Kemps Jig in your style, as taught by Tom Baxter. Zoomington, a contemporary tradition born of necessity. Network latency and glitches are an essential attribute of the medium. Berkeley Morris presents this native Zoomington dance for your consumption here as a memento of the early 20s. May history not repeat itself for at least a while. Greenwood Morris dances their unique 6-dancer arrangement of Off to California in the Lichfield tradition for May Day 2021. It was kindly filmed by their neighbor, Shelby Havens, on her cell phone. We learned 2 versions of the jig Princess Royal. This is the Ducklington one, as taught by Crystal Bailey. It's been a year of firsts. This is the first dance that Sound and Fury Morris has officially done in the style of Lichfield, socially distanced. And a little rain won't stop a Seattle team. Not all the teams have been able to dance this year, which is why we invited Postcards to catch up with our friends. Here's Brackleberry.
Hello from Brackleberry.
Hello from Brackleberry.
Hello, everybody.
All I really did during the pandemic is take care of myself.
I learned how to brew my own kombucha and make sourdough bread.
I got kittens and I've been doing strength training, so that's great. Yeah. And Brackleberry has been getting through the pandemic. Happy ale.
Happy ale.
Okay, time for another jig. This will be lumps of plum pudding in the Longborough tradition, as taught by Crispin Youngberg.
Okay, arms. Five, 6, 7, 8, and double step. Chorus, long side step right. Furries. Galley left. RTBs. Right back, right up, galley left. Left back, left up, galley right. Side steps right and left. Galley left. Chorus. Long right. Upright. Balance. Balance. Jump. Full step right. Finish down.
The members of Renegade Morris, normally from Philadelphia, are scattered on both coasts, but still managed to meet on May Day to dance. This is their version of Glorishears, adapted for Zoom.
This time, up backs. Foot up. Leg down. First chorus. Face up. Out and up. All in. And hey. All face down. Out and up. And hey. Just figure, half chip. Chorus, face up, bow and out. All bowing in, and hey. Face down, bow and out. And hey. Back to back. Last chorus, rainbows. And final figure, rounds, clockwise. Head back. And all face out. Paper out of the set. That's it.
Remember to bag your hankies for Old Mother Oxford. It's a Headington jig taught by Nadia, Pierrehumbert. It's time to catch your breath and enjoy an extended postcard from Gary Schulte.
I brought you here to my 6-acre wood, to one of my favorite trees. It's this big old oak with 3 trunks coming out of the same root. And that just reminds me of what our Morris community is like and how grateful I am for it. And it reminds me of how, this tree was standing here 150 years ago when Cecil Sharp was collecting the music and the dance to preserve it. It was here maybe 170 years ago when the teams were still dancing in the old way in their villages, living in their quaint cottages and doing the dance, having their own ales with different villages. And I brought you here today because I'd like to share a little bit of oral history about the early days of Minnesota Traditional Morris. I've been on the team almost as long as anybody. Ed Stern, our founder, is still on the team, still dancing, and I'm the second longest active serving member of Minnesota Traditional Morris. So even though we've already written up our history, and I didn't have much part of that, I'd like to get my 2 cents in anyway about this. Now, I like to think of this tree behind me. I like to imagine it as 3 Morris dancers that were doing a rounds, and they became so enraptured that they turned into trees and became rooted here. It's a nice thought. And that's the way I like to think of Morris, as stamping dances, stamping the life back into the ground in the spring. So that part of it, that earth part of it, is what has most enraptured me and connected me. Now, when I joined the team, there were 2 principal figures. There were lots of people everybody was important. But there were 2 personalities that stood out. There was Ed Stern, our founder, who was very much the woodland gnome, and there was Arthur Knowles, the art of Morris dancing, who looked like Jesus, but with Clark Kent glasses. And Ed had Clark Kent glasses too. I auditioned for the team. I was at a Christmas Day dinner, and a wonderful, enlightened woman named Marlis Gilmore told me about the Morris. She said, we're going to have a guest. He's Korean, Jin Baek, and he's on the Morris team, and they're looking for a musician. Their musician just moved on. He was a teenage young man, and he had other things to do, so they needed a musician. So Jin had me play Shepherd's Hay. He just hummed Shepherd's Hay once or twice. He said, here, I'll dial up, I'll call up Ed Stern, our founder and our foreman, and you can play. We'll just surprise him. You just play Shepherd's Hay. So I did that. And a kindly voice spoke to me, and I was in. But they had to take me because they didn't have any other musician. And also, even though I didn't even drink ale or drink any alcohol, Arthur Knowles realized that when he sat next to me, he'd get an extra one. So it was okay. It was okay with Arthur. So I just was enraptured with this, and Ed was so cool. He was, a biochemist, but he was kind of living the hippie life then. He was teaching folk dancing, and he owned and operated his own folk dance coffee house called Saltari in this 1917 Coliseum ballroom in Minneapolis. Up on the 3rd floor, up these big broad stairs, you'd go up to this 3rd floor, this cavernous space with the best dance floor in the Twin Cities from 1917. There were 2 big rooms there, and he operated a coffee house there with the folk dancing every night of the week except Friday and Saturday. And when they had to have the ballroom to pay the bills. And then in the other big room, we got to practice. So how cool is that? It was wonderful. And Ed was such a networker. He still is such a networker person. Now, here's the the funny thing. Our team has always been obsessed with age. They've always wanted to recruit younger members, and they've been worried, oh, how are we going to recruit younger members? You know, and the joke is that even after all these years, we can still fill up a side with some of us original dancers from over 40 years ago. It was 43 years ago that I joined. This is my 44th season. So it's amazing. Now, Ed was only 35 then, and I was just 25. But he was worried about having younger dancers. So maybe that's why today we are supposedly the largest Midwestern side. The big, filthy rich multinational corporation that MTM is today. So anyway, that's in a nutshell how it all happened, this mania for attracting new members. But the other interesting thing is, I joined in 78. In 79, we went to the Marlboro Morris Ale. We were invited there in 79 and 80. Now in 79, nobody but Ed had ever seen another Morris dancer or another Morris dance team. And we went out there, and contrary to what our written history says, we were terrible greenhorns. Compared to those sophisticated Eastern teams, we were really in the beginning. We danced with our heads rather than our bodies, really, for several years. But we were good sports, and they found us enough fun that they invited us back the next year. And the next year we had a wonderful, genius kind of fool person, one of the funniest persons I've ever known personally, Nick Lethert, on our team as our fool. And that year, Nick, unbeknownst to anybody, just showed up while the pristine, serious Marlboro Morris dancers were doing a meticulous, pristine set of Longborough. And he showed up with his mask on, not his COVID mask, but his bandit mask, and with his big squirt gun. And he alternately squirted each other dancer in the set as he went through as they were dancing. Now, this caused the impeccable Marlboro's side to actually make a little mistake. And they never make mistakes. So they were mock furious, but also maybe really furious, and they chased him off. And yet, after that, we were friends thereafter. And I also remember on those tours that certain members of our team and other teams were awarded the distinction of having been thrown out of Poncho's Wreck pub. And they even made up T-shirts to say this. So much fun was had at those ales. And we, between 79 and 80, we made huge progress. We were much better as a team. So that was wonderful. And then what happened? Well, then in 81, we had the first Midwest Morris Ale. Now this ale, I just wanted to tell you because it's a wonderful story. You know, it was so small, so intimate. We had just enough people that only enough people that we could fit them all under the picnic shelter there, which was no more than about 25 feet square, with open sides with a roof over it. We were all kind of hugging each other. We were a tight-knit little community. It was basically just MTM and the Madison Oak Apple team. But I think there were some members of the Sourwood team there too. I'm quite sure I remember that. But it was still pretty much our two teams. And there were so few people that we just toured in cars. We got into cars and went. We didn't need the buses and all of that. So it was a wonderful place, and we just tented on this open, flat state park plain that was just basically grass. I don't know if there was a single tree there, but it was just such a communion. You know, back in those days, there were fewer of us, but that was okay. And what I've always loved about the Morris community is that a lot of us are what our late member Kirk Bachler would tell me were fireside people. Fireside people. People who can sit by a fire and just be quiet or be meditative or share interesting conversation. And the conversations we've had up at our very exclusive, wonderful wild campsite, Arthur's Knoll, at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival, have been just so priceless to me, and I'm sure to a lot of other members. It's just the things we talked about, history, science, languages, just so many different things in that communion around the fire, rooted to the earth. And on my first May Day, there were some Native American people, who came up to us. And they were very happy. And they said, you know, we do that dancing too. And some literalists could contradict them, but we didn't, because they were right. The bells on our legs, the stamping the life into the ground, the celebration of the earth, we realized we're all doing that. Both of us were doing that. And that was a wonderful communion. It was just great. And that same first May Day for me, 1978, we were on the corner at downtown Minneapolis, where we always danced down Nicollet Mall. We're on the corner of the library, the library corner there. And we were dancing, and this cab driver and this other driver became so enamored of us, so carried away that they forgot to drive, and they drove into each other. So there was an accident. So we caused an accident. And I was so worried, I was so worried that we had, that they'd be so angry that they'd break my violin over my head. But they didn't. They didn't. They were happy with what we did. They didn't blame us. And so this leads to the last point. What I love so much about Morris and our Minnesota traditional Morris and our ale community is it gives us permission to be a public nuisance. It gives us permission to do the street art, street theater, street happening that was so cool back in the 70s. And now maybe it isn't so much, but we can do it anyway. And we're taking back the places for ourselves. We're taking them back. This is ours, as opposed to the pop stars and all this stuff happening out somewhere else. This belongs to us. And it helps all the other people out there to feel that sense of belonging with us too. So remember the dancing trees, and God bless all of you in the Morris. Goddess be with you, as Arthur Knowles would say. And thank you to all of my Morris friends. My best to you.
Okay, jig time again. This is Princess Royal Oddington Tradition with Marissa Roque.
Yay! Thank you, Nadia.
Earlier this year, Oozwash's Molly held a very successful virtual day of dance with contributions from Molly sides around the UK, US, and Canada. Following on from this, they launched the Molly Moves project to develop a new Molly dance specifically designed for individual dancers and musicians to join in at home. Again, they had involvement from dancers around the world, and several contributed videos of their efforts, joining them in this final show dance.
The fens of East Anglia nowadays are nothing like as dangerous as they were a few hundred years ago. Fens nowadays, they're neat, they're tidy, they're farmland, they're mostly safe, there's lovely straight roads. The roads aren't the safest, they're quite bouncy, never mind that. Hundreds of years ago, the fens were cruel, dark, very dangerous places. One of the most dangerous things about the fens was straying off a path and getting trapped in a reed bed and drowning. One of the things that made those fens even more dangerous were the lantern men. Now, the lantern men were strange, glowing lights in the dark of night that would dance around. They would lure travellers off of the path into those reed beds where they would inevitably drown. The other thing about lantern men, it was often said that they would come and try and steal your breath. So one of the best ways of evading them was to lay face down in the muddy ground and press your mouth to the mud, and then maybe they'd leave you alone. This dance is a dance called the Lantern Men.
ready to dance along with Fred Gerhard doing the Sheriff's Ride, a Lichfield jig.
Ladies and gentlemen, now a very special treat for you. Our friendly dancer Fred will dance for you a new jig in the Lichfield tradition called Sheriff's Ride. Fire!
This may not look like a pandemic dance, but that's because Surly Griffin Morris is in Australia, where they're allowed to gather. They danced out on Sunday, May 16th, at a proms concert in a country town an hour from Canberra.
And I've actually talked to the guy who wrote this dance. It was written for our little Morris tour to the Letterkenny Irish folk festival in Ireland. And until, well, that side, there was a couple of groups that went together. They wrote the dance, a couple of groups did it. And then the dance basically died out in the UK. Except one person from that side came to Canberra and started the Morris side. And some of us learned their dance from them, the dance moved on. And in 1999, the Morris side went back to the UK and they rediscovered it in the UK. And now there are several groups in the UK that do this dance. We love it. You'll recognise the tune probably if you listen to folk music pop music in the 80s, but it is actually a traditional tune. This is Cheshire Rounds. There we are. This time.
asked teams to send in postcards, to just say hi. So with no further ado.
Hi from General Hardware.
Hi from General Hardware. Woot woot. Hi from General Hardware.
Hello from General Hardware.
Hey from General Hardware. Hello.
Hello from General Hardware. Hey, I'm just here to say hello from General Hardware.
Hey from General Hardware.
Hey from General Hardware.
General Hardware saying hi.
The Bells of the North. Here's the jig Enlist for a Sailor, Sherburne tradition, as taught by Carl Schultz.
Let's give that all a try. I'm going to come in on a shuffleback. Shuffleback. Double steps. Shuffleback. Or side step. Shuffle. Side shuffle. Double step. Plain capers. 4/8 capers. Double step. Galley. Plain capers. Side step. Shuffle. Side shuffle. Double step. Plain capers. Half capers. Push. over. Double step. Galley. Plain capers. Side steps. Shuffle back. Double steps. Plain capers. Splitters. Right back. Left. Right. Left. Double step. Galley. Plain capers. Side steps. Shuffle. Double steps. 4 plain capers out.
Kitchen Sink Molly did some COVIDography for their May 16th performance at Breathe With Me, an art installation at Gunn High School in Palo Alto. The program helped to build hope and resilience during COVID times as in-person classes resumed. One last jig. Get ready for lumps of plum pudding in the Braggart's variation of Bleddington, as taught by Matt Tillotson.
And pieces of pie, me mother, she gave me for telling a lie. She gave me so much that I thought I should die from lumps of plum pudding and pieces of pie.
The last show dance at the Midwest Morris Ale is traditionally reserved for the host team of next year's ale. Oak Apple Morris and General Hardware wanted to host the ale in 2020 and in 2021. Third time's the charm, 2022 in Wisconsin. This is General Hardware doing Twiglet in a Wren kind of way.
Woo!